But there was another side to it too, and that was at the UN. And that has been studied and documented by some pretty serious people who have done some heavy-duty work to figure out how it all got going. And they have names and dates and places. I won't bother you with the details, but it turns out back in the late 60s, they had a couple of things in mind. One was one world government, and the other was how do the lesser nations, the third world nations, elicit payments from the developed nations and get them on their knees and passing the money out. They decided that global warming was the answer. This is how they could exercise their force against the major nations, claiming that the major nations, through their burning of fossil fuels to power their civilized and advanced cultures, were indeed destroying the planet of Earth, and they owed the lesser nations money. And the lesser nations would take that money, and we'd have this whole process of one world government. And the first event that they sponsored was World Earth Day in Stockholm, Sweden in 1970. And a kind of a cabal got together, and they had several meetings after that. And I think it was 84 then that they established, I think Fred might correct me, 84, I think, they established the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now, I don't want you to think that that was a scientific research organization, because it wasn't. It had a political and environmental agenda from the beginning. It had a hypothesis. Global warming is being caused by CO2. It got the Rebel paper as well, and it was using it. And it was based on that and the Keeling curve. This was it. And from here, they were ready to go. So what they started doing was passing out, getting grant money, passing it out to all these different scientists. Now, take yourself as an example. Let's say you decide when you're in high school you want to be a climatological scientist, a meteorologist, to do research. So you spend 10 years in college, and you build up $50,000 in student debt, and you get out of college, and you've fallen in love and married a woman. Or if you're a woman scientist, you've fallen in love and married a man. And you got a mortgage, and you got kids. And you get a job at a university doing research, or at a university or some foundation-related research group. And you get a grant, and you do research on global warming and say CO2 isn't important, nothing's happening, there is no crisis. Career over, student loan unpaid, mortgage fails, wife leaves you, children think dad's a failure, you become a drunk, and you're dead. Or you crank out the paper they want. It gets published in the journal. You get invited to join the IPCC. You get invited to go to Bali like they went a year ago, or to some other exotic place for a meeting. You get to stand up and do your PowerPoint presentation. Wear a suit. You don't teach class. You're a big guy. And you get your money. Money keeps flowing. Do you think that this old weatherman here might have a hint of how it all happens? Or is he just kind of wacko? I think I know. There's a huge pressure to produce the science that they're paid for. And it happens. And it happens in this country and all around the world. And then you have to defend it. And then you have to defend it. So you defend my paper, give me a good peer review, I'll give you a good peer review. And the club forms, and the syndicate tightens. They throw their arms around each other. The old boys club of science. And folks, I'm here to tell you, that's exactly what's happened with the IPCC. Now we hear about the 2,500 scientists who are in consensus. Well, first of all, there never were 2,500, maybe 2,200. Second of all, they were split up into 3 panels. Third of all, a lot of them were bureaucrats. Some of them were Heck, some of them were members of Greenpeace and sent by the Sierra Club. And almost all of them either had a political or environmental objective. Pure scientists there. Except for Fred. I don't know anybody else. And so they got what they want. Here is my message. Hello, Al Gore. Hello, UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Your science is flawed. Your hypothesis was wrong. Your data is manipulated. And may I add, Al Gore, your scare tactics are absolutely deplorable. The Earth does not have a fever. Carbon dioxide does not cause significant global warming. I guess I'll take a minute on the science, though we understand I'm not the PhD. But here's the deal about CO2, carbon dioxide, in case you haven't got it. It's a natural compound in our atmosphere. It's always been there as long as the Earth's been here. It is absorbed and emitted by the oceans. It comes out of volcanoes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And very importantly, it is used by every living plant on Earth. Every tree, every bush, every flower, in every field, every corn stalk, every wheat shaft, every blade of grass. Nothing would be green. There would be no life on Earth without it. And oh yes, we humans, we create it with every breath we breathe out. When we breathe out carbon dioxide. So, it's not a pollutant. It is not smog. It is a naturally occurring invisible gas. And let me illustrate. I'm going to make a little square in front of my face here, and I estimate that there are 100,000 molecules of atmosphere in that square. Of those 100,000, only 38 are carbon dioxide. 38 out of 100,000. That makes it a trace element. Now let me ask a question. How can a trace element totally upset the climate of planet Earth? Answer, it can't. And this is what all of that science at the IPCC is about. Thousands of pages. Computers, models, you wouldn't believe how many times they had to run them before they got the answer they were after. The whole thing is to try to turn a trace compound into the magic bullet that destroys Earth. It's been the whole scheme. That's all they've been trying to do. And they have failed, and the reason they've failed is because it can't be done. They come up with what they call radiative forcing. Somebody will tell you about that. Well, it's not real. Or the tipping point. It's not real. What they're trying to say is that because it has some special interplay with water vapor, which is 95% of the greenhouse gas on planet Earth, that this little bitty trace compound somehow manipulates the water pressure, the water vapor, and makes it 6 times more greenhouse effective. Well, that's wishful thinking on their part. It doesn't happen.